Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling on June 7th, 2016. And I do have to make this question right off the bat, because we know this is the final episode of Impact before they go into Slammiversary. And the week before, they had started showing vignettes for this new guy, Braxton Sutter. And my thought process is, okay, this is somebody who's going to come in afterwards. He was cutting a rather decent backstory promo, basically trying to make himself like a babyface and everything in that sense. So why do they have him debut before Slammiversary? You figured this would be something that they would do to actually be on Slammiversary or after Slammiversary. Why are you doing it the Impact before Slammiversary that you have him actually debuting? His match, basic fair style match for a debut. He goes over big, is made to look relatively decent. Then he cuts a promo with Jeremy Borash, and he ends it with, and this is the best part, that's no BS. So they're already playing off of that his initials go to BS. Okay, honestly not a very good way of going. The promo up until then wasn't too bad from him, but otherwise, again, it seems, and you even saw it on his little Tron beforehand. Is like, oh, it's like Braxton Sutter, BS. Where are they really going to go with this? Like, he does cut the initial babyface style promo and everything. In that sense, it says he's hungry and he's humbled to be here, but he's also going to be the guy who's, he's not here just to be here. He's here to take over and everything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with him down the road. They did also do a Fact of Life segment with Eli Drake, and his guests were Decay. Relatively decent promo. I liked how he was giving his, since they were the heels, he was giving like little subtle compliments, things that you would typically would consider be degrading to most people, but are compliments to Decay in that sense. There's like, he was talking about Rosemary being being behind the face paint, but saying, oh, you'd probably be one of the hottest knockouts on the roster, even without that. Like, things that you would say, he would say things that would be, like, typically insults to most other people, but would be compliments in the terms of how Decay is. The Decay themselves do cut a relatively alright promo, and then they get interrupted by the Bromans. Bromans, of course, are going after Decay, and the tag team titles with that horrible match that they decided to do that with. They had not built this up at all going into the actual pay-per-view. It was relatively not that well done. So you had Raquel, you had Jesse and Robbie E out there. They cut their standard fair promo to go along with it, go along with everything, which eventually does lead to the whole aspect of Decay saying is like, there's 4 of us and 3 of you right now, and then they bring out Grado and Muhammad Ali Shira as backup, and it's like, okay, we know where this is going. We definitely know where this is going. In the Tribunal, they come out and they cause the attack, and we have your standard fair brawl, which led to a 10-man tag. The 10-man tag itself was alright. It was not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. Nothing crazy. Eli Drake going over Grado with his little combination knee to the face and then turnaround clothesline. Interesting fair to go about with everything there. But like I said, nothing too crazy about that one. Not a horrible segment either. Not anything great by any stretch of the imagination, but nothing too bad. You also had a number 1 contenders match with Sienna going up against Madison Rayne. Again, Madison Rayne was basically made here to look like the punching bag to Sienna, and Sienna's going after Jade. You had Jade out there as well. Throughout the match, watching it, and she got I believe she gets involved at the end of the match. It ends out coming off It's not too bad because you had Ali out there. You also had Sienna, so you had both of them out there. And after the match, like I said, standard fare chased away, and that sets up for the Knockouts title match. Will be Sienna versus Jade at the pay-per-view itself. Again, it wasn't a bad match, but it was basically made to look like a squash match like before, and they have something huge on the line, like a number one contendership. And you have something huge on the line like that, and yet you kind of put it in a squash match with how they've been depicting Sienna as of late. Like, you had the lose and you're fired match, and it was pretty much a squash match. Nothing, like, no real tension of who was going to win or who was going to lose inside of there. So, again, like I said, nothing horrible about this, but nothing crazy great about it either. And that's pretty much what you would say for most of the show as well. You did have a couple other good segments in there. Let me go into the X Division title match first with Trevor Lee and Eddie Edwards. Pretty good match between the two of them. I thought this was a thoroughly enjoyable match. You had I'm mispronouncing the name. You had Trevor Lee's tag team partner in crime come out, and not only no, he doesn't cause the distraction. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over exactly how it happened. But the proper way that it happens, that Gregory Helms causes the distraction. Everett comes out and knocks Eddie Edwards off, causing the victory for Trevor Lee. Eventually, DJZ comes out and helps out. And this is now officially been announced as a Fatal 4-Way match, which they had already done one with an Ultimate X match recently. So now they made a Fatal 4-Way match with Everett Lee, DJZ, and Eddie Edwards. Why couldn't they have done this Fatal 4-Way as just a normal Fatal 4-Way first and built this into the Ultimate X instead of just making the Ultimate X match happen out of nowhere? So again, it's one of those things like almost why are they doing this? I kind of get why they're doing it because all four of these guys are, intertwined with each other, and the Fatal 4-Way works actually in this case. But they could have done the Fatal 4-Way match first, and then, it's like, okay, someone kind of gets over, or Trevor Lee gets over in dubious fashion. You have this one-on-one match, and now you have an Ultimate X match with all four guys. Could have been a little bit better of going, and maybe made Ultimate X mean something a little bit more in the end. But, it is what it is in that case. I expect this Fatal 4-Way match to be relatively good. I think this could be a good Fatal 4-Way in the end. All four of these guys can do very well in the ring, and obviously the mic skills for Everett and Lee are based around Gregory Helms, so they don't have to talk much. Eddie Edwards is good in the ring. DJZ, for his character being as wonky as it is actually pretty good in the ring too. So this could be a fun match to watch at the pay-per-view itself. So kind of looking forward to that there, but in the end, nothing all that crazy to go along with everything. So I'm going to get into the whole EC3. EC3, Michael Bennett, and Gail Kim and Maria storylines. They intertwined them throughout the night. They did play a couple segments throughout the show. Apparently, they had a weigh-in for EC3 and Michael Bennett. They cut to this weird little MMA style weigh-in and everything. It's like, I wonder why that didn't get leaked beforehand, because it was actually done beforehand. Inside of there, it was done before the show, so why don't you leak this footage and you play off of that throughout the show? Apparently they decided not to. They just showed it here, and they were they were hyping up throughout the night that Maria and Michael Bennett were going to go up against Gail Kim and EC3 in a tag match, in a mixed tag, which they go out there, they start well, actually, beforehand, you have Gail Kim and EC3 talking up everything about their match at Slammiversary, and about how they were going to get a little bit more here from both of them in this mixed tag match. Mixed tag match comes about. Obviously, since Maria is the one in charge of the Knockouts division, she can just pull herself out of the match and puts Allie into the match to go along with it. Afterwards, that match, okay match, standard fare. In the standard fare in the end, you leave Allie alone with Gail Kim, because EC3 and Michael Bennett have chased each other off, and Gail Kim wins with a roll-up. Wins with a roll-up. Doesn't... Well, first of all, the biggest problem was that they did end the match in disqualification with Allie doing a low blow inside of the middle of the ring. In front of the referee, too. This match just doesn't end. It ends with the roll-up afterwards. It was a little bit weird towards the end of the match there. Otherwise, before the match, that's, middle match, beginning of the match, not too bad. But the end of the match was like, really? Really? Okay, I guess we'll go with it. Go with it in there. And this does lead to eventually, Maria, and then Maria getting into the ring and start going after Gail Kim. And it does lead to a 3-on-1 with Sienna coming back out there, laying out Gail Kim. And Maria takes does a chair shot to Gail Kim's knee that had a chair sitting on it already. And Sienna had already done a little spot to the knee to try to make it feel like they had weakened it up. And this is trying to say is what kind of shape is Gail Kim going to be in going into the pay-per-view match. So not a bad way of going. I actually kind of liked how they finished this off here in that sense of everything. They even do a backstage little vignette where they're talking about Gail Kim and they're trying to work on her knee and everything like that. And overall, not bad. Pretty good way of going, and we'll see how that match comes off at the pay-per-view itself. I mean, that segment wasn't that whole segment wasn't horrible, and I thought they did what they needed to do to tease it a little bit that you're getting matches with each of them, but not really giving you everything that you needed before the actual pay-per-view. So overall, that segment came off relatively good and did what it needed to do. Sorry, I had to clear out my throat. So this is going to bring me to the main two storylines of the night, and they kind of break together, and break together with the whole Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy storyline and the Drew Galloway, Bobby Lashley storyline. So Matt comes out at the beginning of the show, says, "I've never lost the world title." He's talking in that monotone type voice again, where, if people had been, I know there were some people, because last week's segment, it wasn't all that great with Matt and Jeff in there, and it got a lot of buzz, and some people who hadn't been watching Impact Wrestling have not seen how Matt transformed into this, so they were making fun of everything. So pretty interesting conversation for later times there. But you have Matt going out there saying he never lost a world title. He wants Drew Galloway. And he was trying to coerce himself into the main event. And instead of it actually being in the main event, or the main event for Slammiversary, Drew Galloway gives him the match tonight in there, which actually does work in that sense, because of course they played Drew Galloway off as a fighting champion, willing to fight anybody at any given time. Also, it still plays off the fact that Drew wants Bobby Lashley by himself. It's become that personal between the two of them. You even get some backstage segments with Bobby Lashley and Matt Hardy talking up everything. And same with Bobby Lashley and Drew Galloway as well. Basically, almost like a little bit of a pep talk, making it feel like he was going to go in there and fight him. It's no, I'm not going to fight you, because he just talks to him about the world title spot. So, overall, those segments, kind of made it make sense of it. Wasn't anything spectacularly great. You also had little spots throughout the show where they glimpsed in Willow. So Jeff Hardy was going to be Willow. And you also had Matt talking beforehand how, he's gotten rid of Jeff forever and everything in that sense. So it's okay, this is their way of bringing Jeff in there right before the show. I almost wish they would have played it a little bit where where they made people think that maybe Jeff wasn't going to show up to the pay-per-view, and he doesn't show up on this show, but it actually works out better in the end, and I'll talk about that here in a few moments. Their match with Matt and Drew Galloway, not a bad match. It ended the way that you thought it would end, because obviously they're not going to change the world title match before the pay-per-view, especially with how much they've done with this world title match, and they're not going to change the whole aspect of the Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy Full Metal Mayhem match to go along with everything. So it ends in DQ. Bobby Lashley comes out there and causes disqualification. They start brawling and everything in that sense. And it does lead to Drew and Bobby Lashley going off to the back, and this brings out an interesting one, because you have Matt sitting in the ring, or well, not sitting, but standing in the ring by himself, and everything is like, he's doing his standard fare of everything about going before the pay-per-view, and was doing his whole complaining about, was like, I should be world champion and everything like that, and the lights go out. When the lights come back on, which was really quick, and actually pretty well done in the terms of correlation with the fans, all of a sudden, like the first 5 rows of fans on the hard camera side, I don't know about on the opposite camera side, all have Willow mask on. And like I said, they have been showing like little glimpses of Jeff Hardy being in the Willow get-up and everything in that sense throughout the show. So, okay, they're doing this to play mind games with everybody. I know I just went with a weird voice there, but hey, it is what it is. But to play the whole mind games thing, and you have like 2 more sets of Willows come out to the rampway, and of course, then you get Willow on the Tron, and he cuts a standard promo here, which eventually brings out Jeff Hardy. I didn't really like this segment. Like I said, the correlation with everything was done well. All that stuff was done really, really well. I just didn't fully like this segment in the end, and it just came off a little bit weird. They end the night with Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy brawling. Again, I almost wish they like left the anticipation there. It's like, is Jeff going to actually show up to the pay-per-view or anything like that? But I mean, this segment at the end with like the fans doing the Willow thing and the 4 Willows showing up on the rampway, and then Jeff Hardy's the one that comes out after he cuts a promo as Willow on the Tron, and then Jeff is the one that actually comes out to confront Matt Hardy. I won't say it was a horrible segment. I can't say it was a great segment either. Honestly, I can't really say much about this show other than it was kind of going into the pay-per-view. It was a lot of standard fare final stuff that you would see going into the actual pay-per-view itself. Doing maybe a little bit of setup here and there. Like, you have the tension. I was like, what kind of shape is Gail Kim going to be in with her match with Maria? But otherwise, they didn't really do much that says, hey, like, they didn't do anything like big in the end. That was the final straw for everything going into the pay-per-view. I think the fact that Matt and Jeff brawled at the end is alright. But again, you could have also gone with the whole storyline. It's like, after what happened the week before, is Jeff going to even show up to the pay-per-view? He doesn't show up on this show. And you can do this whole thing at the whole in the pay-per-view side of everything. But they kind of went with a whole fair this time. And in the end, I guess that's not a bad thing for the company as well. That, they don't leave any question whether or not Jeff is going to be at the show or not. Because, they're probably trying to get as many buys as possible. If you leave a question of the whole aspect of somebody potentially not being there that people do want to see, people might not buy or anything like that. So in the end, it probably doesn't work. It doesn't really hurt anything. But like I said, they could have gone with that other storyline as well instead of just having them brawl. But the brawling at the end actually works too, because this feud's gotten really personal towards the end of everything between Matt and Jeff. So again, not horrible, but not great by any stretch of the imagination. You could pretty much say that about this entire show as well. It was not great, but it wasn't horrible by any stretch. Like, they kind of just did what they needed to do to get to the pay-per-view, and they didn't go too outside of the box to get there throughout this entire show. So, yeah, that is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling this week. I thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.